Wow. What is that background? Is
Hola,
that
hola.
real or
It's a real background, yes.
it's not? It's not. A, it's
Already
not a
in
green screen.
Portugal, Alex and me,
Oh my
while we're
god.
waiting for Kareem, we're having a Financemate offsite, spending some time in Portugal, thinking about
Oh
how
my
we
god.
can make the planning process even better. Kareem,
So
how's
nice.
how's it feeling to still have to wait until Monday before you join us?
It's fine. I mean, I'm sitting here in the rainy Berlin, so like exactly a lot better than you guys for sure. But yeah, I'm
Yeah.
waiting to hand over my dog Joey, so that I can get out of here, and in there with you. It'll be a lot of
Yeah.
fun. But
Yeah.
I
And
saw some
here I
photos
am.
from the Airbnb. Looks pretty sick.
Yeah. And I am
Yeah, man, it's super nice.
drowning in FOMO because
Yeah,
shortly after I'm still living out of boxes, and that's gonna be my life for the next couple of
yeah, it's
weeks.
true. Like it's a bit sad that you now moved to Berlin, Augusto, and then we
Yeah.
kind of like fall right into that period when we said we're gonna do an offsite, and
Yeah. That
be
was
nice
a
to
it was a
next month.
we should time it better. I should plan my moves. Like I should have planned it, like say, you know what? I move 1 month later. It's okay.
Yeah,
It's like
that would.
landlords can figure it out with each other. It's all good. I'm one of them, so it's
Ah, yeah, right. It's your own apartment too.
yeah. Yeah. It's super funny to make like it's I feel like my life recently is full of those jokes. It's like, oh, but like the landlord is so annoying. It's like, ha ha ha, it's you. It's like, and it's like, careful with the doors. The landlord is super annoying. Yeah. Anyway,
You're just becoming a dad and embracing your dad
my
joke
God, I
destiny.
I am already. So,
Hey,
I just need to embrace it now. I just need to
Augusto,
make
are
all
you
those
on your
shitty jokes.
phone or like are you don't have a desk yet?
I do not have a desk yet. No, 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 no. I mean, I
It's not set up.
so the surface exists, but am I too bouncy? Maybe I can like relocate my setup so that the working surface does exist, but it is full of things that are going to go in many different places in the apartment, many of which we haven't bought yet. So fun. Yeah.
Okay,
It's actually
guys,
I really like it. I really like renovating stuff, but yeah.
let's get started. I mean,
Let's go.
generally to sum it up, I'm happy that you're actually back in Berlin. Like once we're back, also or I'm back.
Yes, it's gonna be super
We'll
fun.
be the three of us in the office. That would be really cool. I'm looking forward to that.
I am
Yeah,
definitely
let's get
looking forward to
started.
that.
So,
Let's
for
go.
anyone new, welcome to Financemate, and it's Financemate podcast, the financial
Hmm.
planning podcast for internationals living in Germany. I'm Daniel. We have Alex, Kareem, and Augusto. We're the four founders of Financemate. Yeah. So, what we believe in is that plans are worthless, but planning is everything. You're gonna hear that quote a lot. It's from Eisenhower. We really like it. It's about your Excel sheet or your 5-year plan or your 2-year plan that's like very static. It's probably just not gonna cut it for you as an international with like very dynamic lives and a very dynamic world that we're living in. Making smart financial decisions today will really have a lot of weight for your future, and we help you tackle those financial decisions across sort of like 3 dimensions: emotionally, mathematically, and what we call logistically. We help you to talk you through it, really make you understand it. We help you figure out the maths around the stuff. Like finances doesn't go completely without it. There should be obviously part of it. And then logistically, it's really about implementing your decisions and making them come to life so you also actually benefit and not just have a plan that sits on the shelves and is waiting to be executed. And today we're answering 5 questions that literally everyone asks us in, not a specific order, but what should I do with my money? Is real estate a good investment for me, especially as an international? Is it good for me to get into real estate even if I maybe not stay here? When can I retire? How can I retire? How can I start investing in ETFs? And what we get a lot more recently is people who get company pensions and ask us, "Oh, does this company pension make sense for me?" Seems like there's a bit of um, a new increase on the corporate side to speak about company pensions. And we're going to tackle each one today through a planning lens. And we hope you get a lot of good information around each of the question. And without further ado, let's go into the first one. So what should
I have a question.
You have a question for me?
Yeah, why does Augusto turn into a tomato every 10 seconds? What's going on there?
It's my camera. My camera is such a high quality Windows laptop camera that
Are you sunburned?
calibrates the colors. So you guys don't feel too cool that you're in the sun. Like sun burns me every second.
It's the FOMO filter.
FOMO filter.
It's like I'm not going because I already had enough sun, as you can see.
Yeah.
It's like, ow, don't touch. Yeah.
That is true. Now that you mention
Anyway.
it, I'm also seeing it. So now I can't unsee it. Thanks, Alex.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Okay, question one is a big one.
Back to the topic.
Yes, question one's a big one. What should I do with my money? I have money coming in. What should I do with it? I think most people think about picking investments, like, oh, I have money. Okay, now I buy this. But we think it's not really about that. It's about thinking from the ground up, like what are actually your goals, and thinking about systems. And so yeah, like what sort of are the better questions to ask here instead of what should I do with my money? Who wants to go first?
I'd like to start actually because I think over the years, like I've heard this question in many different formats, right? Like, what should I do with my money? And I think like the first thing, at least for us at Financemate, like what we try to do is understand, like, okay, like what is your money? Like, what is your not just your money, but what's your financial situation like today? We see a whole range of people asking this question, from people that are maybe just starting their career to people that are doing career transition, becoming freelance, to people that have been saving like for 12 years or 13 years and have like 100K on their bank. All this range of people have the same question actually. And I think it's really interesting. I think also what we've seen sometimes is the people that actually have saved a lot of money feel a lot of fear and sometimes even shame about asking that question because they actually have a lot of money and they're like, I know I should be doing something from it. I just don't know what. And I'm scared to really like go in any given direction because it might be the wrong direction. So I think, yes, this question firstly comes from all different sorts of people, even like people who have saved quite a lot. And I think for us, like the way we try to think about it is like, firstly, what is your financial situation? So not just how much money do you have in your bank account, but like really what is your income, expenses, all of your assets? Do you have any debts, like that sort of thing? So we first like try to get like a more holistic picture than just like how much money do you have on your bank account? And then we try to understand from you what you want to achieve in life, like more about your goals, your vision for your life. Like you might need the money today because you're doing a life transition or you want to like explore a new hobby or whatever, and you might need it right now, or it might be better to put it aside for the future. So I think the answer to that question is there is no one size fits all answer. What should I do with my money? But at least our planning based approach sort of is more about like figuring out where you are today, where you want to go, and then how we can best use your money as a vehicle to get you there and to help you achieve the things that you want to do. Like we see money just as a tool to help you achieve the things that you want in life. So we try to help you achieve them, basically.
So the better questions to ask are, what's your current financial situation? And what are your goals? Like these are better questions to ask than what should I do with my money? And then to get some meat to it, Alex, can you give us like a few sort of rules of thumbs, like if I have like 100K, for example, like these clients that Karim mentioned that we have, is like if I have 100K sitting in my bank account, like is there a few buckets that I can think of what I should do with it?
We actually just had this question, like, what should I do with my money this morning? And as Karim said, there is a bit of, not necessarily embarrassment, like having a lot of money, but it's definitely not what a lot of people would think in terms of feeling, hey, I do have a lot of money, I feel comfortable, like being very comfortable with the situation. It's for a lot of people, it's actually like, I do have a lot of money, so I should be doing something. I'm not. Like, it actually creates more of an anxiety feeling. I get to the rules in a second to answer your question. I just wanted to say, like what Corey mentioned, I think is more common than actually not. And how to think about it, right? I would say you generally start with current needs right now, your liquidity needs. Start really thinking about how much money do you need for emergencies. That's usually the first bucket, and that can be very different. Like, I've seen somebody like having 100,000 euros holding it in cash just because it fits the financial situation. There are some things that can come up that might actually cost some money, like for example, family abroad that might need your support and so on. So there are situations, and if you're comfortable with like your money situation, where this can be actually a large, or like a big part of it can be actually holding it in cash and not investing it. But it's more than a conscious decision where you're saying, like, okay, this is how much money I need to feel comfortable in the short term, because things can come up, and it can be, or it should be, a number that you feel comfortable with, because like there's no point in investing as much as you can and then you get anxious about it, right? So because you get anxious about needing money and it's being invested and you don't know what's happening, and then you kind of freak out when the market actually you have a market crash and you feel like, okay, now I cannot take out my money and it's all invested. So that, I think, is the first point. And I cannot give you a number, really not. Like it varies by like a lot by how risk tolerant people are. Some people are completely fine investing almost everything, where we then have to talk to our clients and be like, hey, are you sure that that's all the money you need to have in cash, right? They're really, you're completely comfortable, pretty much investing everything. And some people are just, they just prefer that, right? And they're comfortable with it. They don't mind taking a loss, like on the investment, if they would actually need some money. But yeah, it really depends on how much money you might need and what your risk tolerance are. Like if you're fine investing everything and then being completely.
Yeah. I was trying to get a number out of you, but you gave the better answer, I guess. So the third level question then is like, what are your liquidity needs? Like, what's your cash flow needs, right? And then going from there. But I think Augusto, you wanted to jump in here as well.
No, I'll just add a little bit to what Alex was saying. Like there's a phenomenon, it exists, and especially it's very common in founder circles, because a lot of founders' assets are illiquid. Like you cannot sell your company tomorrow if it's not public. So it's like this kind of like called, I heard it named like rich poor or something like that, where you have on paper, maybe you are like a millionaire, you have like a couple million in assets, but if you go to your bank account, there's like $300. And if you're like, okay, I need 400, where do I get them from? And there's nothing you can sell. There's like a painting that you have that's worth $1 million, and you can maybe sell it, maybe not. That happens. That I actually, I know people who have been in that situation. Not such big numbers, but it is a fact. So back to it, I think is an extreme example of pointing back to what Alex was saying. Is like the first thing you need to know is how much you need, not more, not less. And I think as well, like it's good in these cases to try to distill the factual analyses of how much you need from the emotional. Like if you're extremely risk tolerant, probably your number is not going to be good enough. If you're extremely risk averse, you're also probably going to be in a suboptimal situation. Like I think,
that's a very good point,
again, depends on a lot of personal situations, but having like, I don't know, for most of us here, having a K in cash is probably not necessary.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess this is going a bit too long. So moving on.
Cool. But I like that additional comment. Like I think that is very, very true. And I've lots of friends that have talked about this as well, as when you have like really risk averse people that then they just like have the suboptimal situation that they're not doing enough with their money, and then you have the high risk takers who is like, you should take a step back maybe, and like having this sounding board there is really important. But on to the next question. Is real estate a good investment? And Augusto, I actually want to ask you,
Is it?
since you moved back into your own apartment, was your real estate investment good?
I think it was okay. It's one of those investments that comes with a lot of perks that are not easy to quantify. So, I mean, when I bought this apartment, I think I was very lucky. It was a very good, junction of time. It was like still interest rate was low, market prices were not peaking yet. I think I was, a lot of people like to say I'm a great investor. I am so smart. I was lucky as hell. And in that sense, and like in the numerical sense, I think it was a good investment. But especially like it's a very good. It comes with these perks, like the fact that I am in a situation where I want to have the flexibility of not having to rent, of not having to a have a work contract that I can present to a landlord and blah blah blah. And this gives me that cushion that is also, it's hard to quantify. And this is why I think you're going to hear us say this so many times. This is why it's important to balance these things and to have a good idea of your plans. And I think we mentioned this in a previous episode. Kareem mentioned this. Real estate has that advantage that not only is the financial aspect, that the numerical aspect, but also the fact that it removes a risk from your life. Brings others, like
I think
I
what
am
you
liable for a lot more money than
back then we talked very specific about Berlin, because there's like not many places to rent and stuff.
yeah.
But yeah, before we go deep into that, I just wanted
Yeah.
to like kind of lurk out of you a little bit that you like
Yeah,
so happy
I am
to
extremely happy.
But I
to
think
have a
so.
property in Berlin to like move back into.
Okay, so like how was that decision making process for you, like to buy that property? What went into it?
I think a bunch of things, but ultimately, to me, what was a risk management decision? Like if I looked at all the possible investments that I could have placed, like the down payment and everything on, it was not a clear winner to me. I had money and I still have money allocated to other things. So I thought of it as also like diversification. I should not put all my eggs in like the crazy, insane things. But it was also kind of like setting a bedrock. It's like, all right, you know what? I want to be able to take more risks with my finances, with my professional life, and having a place that I know is mine. I mean, I have a liability for it, but it's a liability that I can afford and like can tolerate a lot of downside in my financial life without it becoming a problem. And it's like this bedrock that I know I have a home where for many people it's hard to take professional risks because they have to pay rent. And if you're kicked out, you're kicked out. And if you have to change, for example, you need to, again, show income, show stuff that if you're doing more creative, more entrepreneurial stuff, is hard in many times of your life.
Yeah.
So that was the thinking process at the time, and I think it's so far paying out very well.
So I want to just step back a second because like again, like it's more about like, when customers like approach us like with these questions, how to think about it. And like, of course, like I think from Augusto's decision-making process, it's one perspective, right? Like this is one perspective on like a very specific sort of like life also like scenario. But we have like clients from like all over the world working in Germany, in corporates, in like small companies, like freelancers, whatever, right? And we get this question again, like from all sorts of different people. And I think like different cultural backgrounds, like also influence like maybe how quickly this question comes up, but it comes up a lot for us. And it comes up a lot recently also, I think increasingly. And to be honest, like is real estate a good investment in Germany? Like if you're an international, again, it really depends, right? The first question I think that we try to evaluate is, do you want real estate to live in it or do you want it as an investment? Because the type of real estate that you should be looking at, if you wanted to live in it or if you want it as an investment, is totally different. Like Augusto and myself did sort of this like blended purpose like thing. Like it's all partly to live in it, partly as an investment, whatever. But then actually it's neither optimal for this or for that.
That is true. Yeah.
So like actually if you are more specific about that, then we can also help you like optimize that decision in a way that really is fit for purpose. And I think like that perspective is very common, I think, especially for like international people, where I know, for example, I used to live in London and like it was very common. There's definitely much more of this like mindset, like get on the property ladder, like as soon as you can, as soon as like you have a job, like buy a
Yeah.
house, apartment, like live in it, and then then you can start renting it out, and then you move out and get like a bigger place. Like this mentality is so ingrained in the culture. In Germany, it's not so much the case. So like yes, you can buy a house and live in it. That's also a totally viable like option. But then like really the way you evaluate that decision is also different. There is, like we said last week, also there's a lot of renter protections as well. Like a long-term rent is almost as safe as buying a house in Germany, and most of the times cheaper too. So it's important to evaluate that option as well. And then if you want to buy it as an investment, like a lot of benefits that you could get from it is also more around like the tax benefits that you can get from that. And if you're working in corporate, maybe investing in property that you don't like continue renting, buy a property purely as an investment and take the tax benefits. Like sometimes financially is actually way better from an investment perspective. So again, like that question, I think comes with a lot of cultural baggage, actually. So I think it's important to actually understand how that decision should be evaluated in Germany because it's very different.
Yeah. I think I want to add to that and kind of abstracting away from my personal experience, like abstracting it out. At least the key message that I wanted to give is this is true for also some other types of investments, some large asset kind of investments, but it's an investment decision that has financial implications. You can do the math, you can model it, and project your P&L, let's say, either living on it as saved rent or renting it out as and looking at the savings at the accrued capital and savings in taxes. And it also comes with not harder to measure things that you also should incorporate into your decision process, which can be emotional, can be cultural. Like having a house is an expectation in your culture, definitely is in mine, and it's a sign of success. And if you peer that out, if you remove those components and you ask yourself, okay, why do I want this? I want it because I think it's like the right thing to do financially. It's like you can actually look at if that's your only logic, you can look at the numbers and you can model the result. We can help you with that, of course. And you can compare to other investments. And exactly as Karim was saying, in this particular context, it's not as obvious a choice as it may be in other locations or in other jurisdictions. And yeah, it is I think a more nuanced decision because it comes with so many other perks and complexities as well.
Yeah.
But
Let me jump in here.
Yeah.
Yeah. To round up the question number 2, like, is real estate a good investment? I think Karim, you summarized it pretty well. Like the better questions to ask here is like, hey, do you want to live in it? Do you want to like have it as an investment? Like these are two very, very different things. They have very different outcomes. They have very different maths. They have very different emotional and cultural baggage, as you said. So that's definitely the first thing that we also ask people. Speaking of if you want to live in it or rent it out, like more long-term thinking. Here's the question, number 3, that maybe a lot of people that keeps people up at night, and I'm gonna pass the mic to you then for that one, Alex. When can I retire? Is that the right question to ask, or what is a better question to ask here?
All right, so retirement's next. Okay, before we go into retirement, one last point that I wanted to say in terms of decision making, because that came up a lot of times for us, is how to find real estate. And when you make that decision of like, I like real estate, oftentimes the question is, where to start. And people then start following people on Instagram, watch YouTube videos, read articles, and there's so much of information on tax advantages, so many bits and pieces of information that people oftentimes get sidetracked completely and confused and go down alleys that are not necessarily meant for them. There's just a lot you can do in different directions, right? It's not just home ownership, like living in it or buying. You can buy so many different things, like on Instagram. Like oftentimes in our meetup seminars, people come with all kinds of questions. If like, they saw an ad if they should buy an old people's home, right? Or they were like, oh, how does it make sense? Would it make sense? What are the implications if I buy an apartment, and I don't own, and I lease the land and I just buy the property on top? Is that a good financial decision? Or should I buy property for and rent it to a business? Like different, very very different directions you can take there. And they need a lot of time and effort to understand and really make sure that if you go any of those directions, that you really freaking know what's going on, that you know all the questions that you can think of, that they answered, because those are investments are very different. And you, like when we talk about real estate, just to clarify that, we usually talk about buying an apartment and living in it, like the classical type, or buying an apartment and renting it out. And that usually means buying it from somebody that offers real estate as an investment. Means like they buy, for example, a building with 5 units, with 10 units, whatever, break it down. There's an investment company, there's a management company already in it. Like they give you the numbers, how it would like when you invest, like the depreciation, all of that they have figured out. You just buy it, that's it. You pay the bank, you get your rent, you do your taxes, that's it. And that is fairly easy. I mean, that's a case that is I think manageable. Everything else is a different kind of animal. Like just to clarify, right? Because we do also get that. And where to find those real estate units, the last point on that is usually you go to a developer or you go to a broker. We also have a network. So if you want to know, like, have connections of people that we trust, you can reach out, like after we know what you want, and we consult you like a little bit on figuring out what is right for you. We can also put you in touch with the right people to talk to about it, and exactly get offers for those properties, because trust is a big thing here, especially if you buy new properties. Like developers can go bankrupt and so on, so there should be safeguard. So there's a lot to think about, there's a lot to plan. And we can help you with the planning, and then we can also help you find the right property for you, put you in touch with the people that actually have really good property, and with people that we trust as partners. And yeah, that said, moving on to retirement. Can you repeat the question, Daniel?
Yes. When
I
can I
can repeat
retire?
it.
Is
When can
it
I retire?
when can I retire? Is it the right question to ask, or is there better questions to ask than this one? Maybe more detailed
I
or
mean,
more suited ones.
first of all, what does retirement mean, right? For a lot of people, we clarified that last time. That just means you stop depending on getting your money from a job, right? That is, I think, the definition that most of us have for retirement. And that's a question that really depends on your financial situation again. At that point where you have sources of money coming in that you can draw from, and you calculated how long you can live off that money, you can retire, right? It doesn't mean you have to. That's, I think, also an important point, because a lot of our clients would like to stop working in the job that they're currently doing that makes them a lot of money earlier than the common retirement age of Germany is like 67. A lot of people think about it like in the 60s or maybe even 50s, that they have the option to do something else, they enjoy more, work less or something like that. So it's really, we have some nice calculators where you can plug in your numbers, you plug in what you're already doing for your retirement, see how your investment is growing, and it kind of shows you with what you're currently doing, when can you actually start drawing from that money. And the other way around, if you say like, I would like to be work optional with mid 50s, then how much money would I need to invest at what, in like return to actually get there. So I think it's definitely something that we can help you answer. It's not super straightforward. There's a lot of things to consider, like the inflation and so on, and returns, and how long you're gonna want to live off that money. But it's definitely something that we can help you figure out.
I think one of the most rewarding calls we ever had as Financemate was someone, we were having a call with them, asked us this question, like, when can I retire? And we looked at their financial situation and their lifestyle and their current expenses and, with inflation projections and how much they have in their investment portfolio and all of that. And we basically told them, you can retire today if you want to, because their life was basically, yeah, they could sustain basically the expenses that they needed to for the rest of their life with the portfolio that they had. And, that's super rewarding for us, because I don't think people sort of imagine that that can be the case. Because, there's all this like talk, yeah, so when you're old in your 60s and you're whatever, 65, 67, like all of this stuff about numbers and age and so on.
Yeah.
But again, it's not about the age, right? Like, I think maybe when can I retire is actually not a bad way to phrase it, right? Like, because it's sort of when do I have enough, financial capacity, let's say, to sustain the lifestyle that I want to have till the end of my life? I mean, that's sort of maybe like a better way to put it, because like at the end of the day, that's all that matters, right?
Yeah.
Like, what life do you want to live until like the day that you die? And do you have enough, not just money today, right? It's not about like having the money today, but like also like Alex mentioned, alternate like income sources to be able to compensate for you to be able to live that lifestyle. And if you do have that, then retire today. I mean, we definitely would encourage that.
Yeah.
And don't
I think
suggest that
I
people
want to
should
add
just
something
wait
here
for the
because
age.
you mentioned something interesting that I think we have to unwrap a little bit, which is their portfolio was big enough that they could retire. So to me, what that means is like they had some like probably capital market investments, they had like ETFs and whatever. And that's also actually one question that we get a lot. It's like, okay, I have like this amount of money in ETFs, but what's the best way to like live off of that? How do I get money out of it and whatever? And to get even one level higher, what you mentioned is like there's basically like a few different income sources that you can or will have in the future, right? In retirement, like there's the public pensions if you're in Germany, and if you stay in Germany and you're like eligible, then there's public pensions. There's company pensions. If you have, there's private pension plans, foreign pension plans. If you've worked abroad, like we have clients, we have a lot of clients like that. There's like, oh yeah, I worked in the UK for a bit and I paid into the system there, so I will probably get something from the UK one day. Or like I worked in Spain and I will get something from Spain, like all of this, right? And then there's like real estate if you have properties, like rental income. And then lastly there's like, okay, I have a portfolio, and how do I actually get money out of my and sort of these all like different income buckets or income sources, um they're all about timing, right? Like when can I get, or when should I actually get money from that income source? With the public pensions, it's usually a defined age, 67, 65, whatever is like when you can start. You can, if you start earlier, you get like penalties. If you start later to withdraw it, you get like bonuses. Then there's like, company pensions have sort of a fixed thing. Private pension has a fixed time frame. But let's say most flexible one is usually your own like ETF portfolio. But then, okay, how do you do it? And that's also a good question to ask. Like, what will my future income sources be? When can I get money out of each one? And then, like, how does that sort of project with, what I want, what I need in the future for my expenses?
Yeah, that's a good point. That just highlights that it's good to know right now how much money is in there, how much money you're contributing, how much money you can probably get out of it. When can you get out money out of it earliest? Any penalties that you might have for withdrawing early, and then how is it taxed, right? Because, for example, the reason that you would withdraw, for example, you have a private pension, you can withdraw money pretty much depending on the pension, of course, but usually whenever you want, you could withdraw it in your 50s and the 40s, like the day after you started to pay in theory. But on those, you pay income tax. Sometimes, withdrawing money from pensions early, then you are like taxed super heavily, if it's even possible. For example, company
Mm-hmm.
pensions, not necessarily possible. But it's important to understand how taxes work and what happens when you withdraw the money. And there's some pitfalls also to watch out for, right? So some people start withdrawing their life insurance in the same year, like when they stop working, for example, they have life insurance, and life insurance, yeah, you pay also income tax, and they withdraw the money, for example, as a lump sum in the same year where they still got, I don't know, 10 months salary, because they
Mm-hmm.
just retired in November, so they still got a lot of salary, and then they add their entire life insurance on top. So like all of a sudden,
Yeah.
all of that money is taxed with 42% on average, which is not necessary if you time it right. So timing, I think, is an important point there. Of course, it only comes at a later point, when to withdraw money from what. I think maybe that's a question for most of our clients. It's like a decade, 2, 3 away, but it's just good to have those facts already, that you know when to withdraw from what.
I think another key determinant also when can I retire is like, do you want to leave money for anyone or anything,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like if
Yeah.
you say like, hey, I need enough money to cover like that I can shop at Lidl and like eat my lunch and dinner for the rest of my life, okay. I mean, you maybe don't need that much, but like if you want to leave like money for your kids or for a cause or for something, it really changes when you can retire then, right? Because you need to build up that capital too.
Yeah, that's a very good point. So to sum it up, like when can I retire can be distilled in like obviously many more questions, but like some key ones are, hey, how much money do you actually want to spend? Like, do you want to have in the future, like every month? And then where, like, what are your income sources gonna be? Like, do you like how many do you have? Like, when do they start? Like, what's sort of the best way to get money out of each at like what time? Alex mentioned that, if you put everything that's in the same tax bracket into the same year, then maybe that's not the best choice, right? And then yeah, like also very important is, do you want to leave anything or not? Many more, but these are the few. Alex, you're burning to jump in here before I go to question number 4.
Yeah, I just wanted to say it's, I mean, also a question that you spend a lot of time on lately
Yeah.
to build a flow, because it can be very tricky questions. There are a lot of components to it,
Yeah.
and they are kind of interdependent, from what's your current situation to how much surplus do you currently have, what can you invest, what's your, like, when do you want to retire, how much money you want to have, a lot of assumptions like inflation, how long do you plan to live, do you want to inherit money to somebody as your kids or whatever.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of things that go in there, and it's hard to actually really know if you're doing enough, if you need to do more, or if like you're overdoing it and you're overshooting your goal. So the process, I think, that you built over the last few weeks and the Financemate client dashboard is, I think, like an amazing way to get an answer to that question, right? And also have some like sliders to play around and actually, see if you change
Once it's
numbers.
done. Once it's done. Yeah. There's a
Yeah.
few tweaks left, but yeah, I'm looking forward to it. If you're a client listening and you're interested to testing it out, let us know. We're happy to show you early. But yeah, so to move on to question number 4, and a good like sort of bridge to start that question. Kareem mentioned something earlier that's very important. Like, you don't have to have the money right now. Like, some people might have, but like, and then obviously if you don't have the money right now, like, what can you do to have the money in the future? And one thing that's like really going around these days is like, oh yeah, just invest in ETFs and put like a monthly sum there, and it will like compound over the years, and you like will build some like private wealth that's like not connected to any pension, whatever. So yeah, question number 4 is like, how can I start investing investing into ETFs? And I think that also depends, obviously, like framed in like you're an international living in Germany, right? And then I guess that depends also if like a US if you're a US citizen, or if you're not, right? But yeah, that's question number 4. Maybe Augusto, if you have a few words. Like, do you like, how did you actually start investing ETFs as an Argentinian? Like when you came to Germany, or do you even do it? We'll find out now.
I actually need it. So actually, my first investment ever was, I think, some big large cap, like single company. And at the time, I had worked in pharma before. I was very much like kind of a hobby into pharma, so I did a bit of like stock picking in there with mixed results. And I was doing it kind of on the side. So then like when I decided to like, okay, I need to get serious about this, I already had a brokerage account, pretty, like a more unnecessarily professional one. So I think it took me a bit longer to navigate the options, the ETF options, but I ended up like doing a bunch of index funds, the typical choices that, like NASDAQ, S&P 500. I had for a while like DAX as well. And just, yeah, just like, I mean, I would probably do it a bit more manual than I would recommend people to do. Like instead of having like like a savings plan, I would like have a fixed amount of money going into the brokerage account and then like set like orders manually to buy stuff. I think for most people, you can just like do a savings plan. It's easier. You don't get the best price for the shares, but it's also like fine. You're not like shaving nanocents.
So I mean, so
But yeah.
we do get like also just this question a lot in general, and I think like this question like, oh, like how can I invest in ETFs is something that like when I first started investing, also like ETFs weren't really like a big thing. They sort of really like grew in popularity also just over the last 10 years. I think it's a great thing, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
It's really like good for, let's say, more beginner or like passive investors, which I consider myself to be one of them. So I think that's like a
Mm-hmm.
very good market development. But I think when people ask this, like again, like we come back to like the planning process, like from our perspective, because like, okay, you hear, oh, like, should I invest in ETFs? How can I get started? And usually, like, when people come to us with that question, it comes out of, I heard I should be doing this. I'm not doing this. How can you help me do this?
Mm-hmm.
And sure, like, yes, maybe ultimately, like, the answer that we'll come to is part of your investment portfolio should be in ETFs.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, like, basically everyone alive should have part of their, like, whatever money they have, even if it's like very small amounts, like part of it should be in ETFs in general, just so that you can kind of keep up with the market also. But again, that's not like where you should start, right? Like again, we received that question as like the first question people ask us, like, hey, Financemate, can you help me start investing in ETFs? And
Mm-hmm.
to us, that's not the starting point. Like that's like step 4 or 5. So I think that's sort of the important differentiation here. We do help people like actually start investing in ETFs. Like we've had clients even share screen with us while they're like actually buying stuff and whatever. That's fine. Like we do that. That's nice. Like we can help you feel secure while you're doing it. But we just think that that's not like actually where to start. Again, what's your situation? Where do you want to go?
Mm-hmm.
What are your goals?
Yeah.
Like, do ETFs fit in helping you reach there or not?
Yeah.
Yeah, very, very important point. To not jump in and like start, okay, yes, do it. Like the answer is not yes in our case. The answer is like,
Mm.
we'll take a
Yeah.
few steps back and then evaluate if
Yeah.
this is the best for you. And like, if we come to that point, it's like, okay, then, next question then is like, how much? And then, how much becomes another question. Like, okay, like what's your financial situation? What is your goal?
Mm.
How much money do you need in the future? Like all of these questions, right? That's
Mm.
why the planning process is very dynamic. And like
Mm.
and usually a big part that plays into that is like people have like salary bumps or decreases both ways, or like what should I do with my savings plans now, like then your
Mm.
financial situation changes and you maybe should adjust it. So yeah, that's that. But Augusto,
Yeah.
sorry, I'm gonna cut you off for this
No, no
one.
worries.
But we
No
have
worries.
we have one last question to get to, and
Mm-hmm.
this is one of Alex's favorite topics.
Mm.
So this is like the ETFs on the private side, but there is company stuff, company pensions. In German, they're called betriebliche Altersvorsorge. And we get a lot of clients, and Alex, you can tell a few stories in a second, but we like get a lot of clients who come to us like, oh, I have this like plan from my company on the table, and I don't know if I should take it or not. Like, do you think it's good? Can you help me figure out like the whole like thing? Because it's like usually these super complex, super long documents that like nobody can really understand and read, and they're like written for like very special people. So
Yeah, by design, I mean,
by
usually.
design, yeah. So yeah, Alex, does my BAV make sense? And it's a tricky one because the marketing often make it sound like it's free money, but the details really matter here.
So, like, if you ask me if your company pension made sense, I would ask you, like, first of all, do you know the conditions? And the first question is like, does the money, like the company, give you a contribution for free, right? Because this happens, people get money from the company, which is then usually vested, so you have to stick with the company for a while to actually then get that contribution. So that's not necessarily, something new employees can get immediately, but that's, I would say, you still have to tell the company that you want it, right? So but that, yeah, take it. After that, anything after that, you're paying into it with your untaxed money, so your gross salary. And in that scenario, I would say the first question I would ask myself is, how long are you planning to stay with that company? Because oftentimes it's difficult to transfer those pensions from one company to the next company. Oftentimes it's difficult. In theory, it should be possible, but company pensions, it's an umbrella term. They can be very, very, very different. There's, private insurance companies like Allianz and so on that offer direct insurance. Their Pensionskasse, like all kinds of different pension insurance, which is very, very different in terms of how the money is being invested, and like how it works in the end. So it's something that you would have to really look into. And the question is also, is it run by your company, or is it run by an insurance company, for example, or who's managing their pension scheme? Because it's already oftentimes hard to find the right person to talk to that actually gives you legit information that's not just selling your product. So that's the next part. Because what you need is really figure out what are the criteria, what are the information about that company pension, meaning how is the money being invested? Because it can be invested in ETFs, it can also be invested actively, it can also be invested in index funds, which are a bit weird. So it looks like ETFs, but it's actually like a weird hybrid version that's not necessarily great at all. But so it's important how the money is being invested. It's important to understand what the costs are, and oftentimes for those it's super tricky. And if it's a direct insurance, it's oftentimes also not cheap. So like there are scenarios where your return is less than your cost because the money is invested conservatively. Let's say you get 2-3% return and the cost is 2%, then you're making less return than inflation, right? So yes, you get then additional contributions maybe from your company, but they can be as little as 15%, right? So the next thing is figuring out how much does your company contribute, right? And it can be 15%, but we have also clients where the company contributes 150%. So, and that's very different, right? And we have, for
Yeah.
example, yeah,
I think
please.
we see also just a huge difference. Again, like there's like cultural context that comes like here, right? Like so, especially like people coming from Anglo-Saxon countries like the US or the UK, like company pensions or generous, let's say, company matching on company pensions is the norm because it's used as a way to attract talent to companies. Like it's a very important part of attracting like talent to companies by having good like employee matching. In Germany, that's not the case, right? So it's really much more discretionary and ranges so much across companies. So like this mindset of like, oh, I should take the company pension because it's attractive if you're coming from an Anglo-Saxon country is not necessarily the case in Germany. So you really need to look at the details, like Alex is saying, because it's not the default.
Yeah. And like oftentimes, like US citizens, even if the company pension is through an insurance company, like we had, the insurance, your company then picks the company pension they work with, the insurer. And for example, Allianz for US citizens simply says like, no, we just don't offer them one. And the thing is, in that case, your company has to offer you one that you can actually pay into. So you can, for example, we can help you then find your own company pension, which is decent, right, and help you um, understand that and set that up with your company. So that's also something we can support with, because we have like company pensions is pretty special, but we do have a partner that we trust that can then actually help you establish that in your company. And by doing that, you also help everybody else from the US, for example, have a proper option there. But yeah, otherwise we also have seen company pensions where the insurance provider simply says you can only invest in very conservative investments. So in that case, you pretty much make very little return after cost. So this only makes sense if your company matching is a lot
super high. It's a very tricky thing, right? Like the details matter a lot. One last question actually, because I don't know, and I'm interested. Before we wrap up this episode, is did you one of you actually have like a company pension at one point? Like did you
I had in the UK,
you had in the UK? Interesting. I
not in
think
Germany.
that's a very interesting point, like with that you mentioned with the Anglo-Saxon sort of mentality and mindset. I mean, just hope that like German companies, and you see that in more in corporates, like bigger corporates that want to attract talent, especially in like more senior positions. They're like much more generous with the company pensions. So maybe to like wrap this up is if you're a bit more senior on the senior side and you have like company pension schemes in the company, then they might probably be worth looking into, or at least getting some more information. Turn
It
out
really depends.
it can turn out
Depends
not
on
to
the
be the case,
company.
but it can be, in my opinion, it can be worth it to like go and like ask.
Usually what you get at that point is more like deferred compensation and other schemes on top. And the reason why company pension is usually better in bigger companies than, for example, startups, as was the case for us in our previous jobs, is that you have a more established, they take more time to look into it. And you have an employee council, right? So employees also put pressure on the employer. They asking for more salary, and then usually you have a negotiation between that council and the employer, and they usually then come up with offering more matching, for example, a better company scheme to please employees, because they pay less social contributions. For them, it's better to pay into a company pension than pay your salary directly. So that's usually why you end up with better conditions in those scenarios. And
Okay,
in
so
startups,
you need a negotiation mate for that one.
and in your startup, usually what happens, at least in our experience and what I know from friends and other clients, is that in startups, usually company pension at a certain level is mandatory. So HR just has it on their to-do list, and they just ask other other people that have set it up before, and then they just get recommended some guy from Allianz, and then they bring you a Zurich pension with a lot of costs, which in our case we had that at Koya. Which I think just out of 80 people, 1 or 2 people sign up. So which usually means the guys from the insurance they don't care so much because it's a lot of work for them, and then nobody takes it. You have a lot of internationals that are also not so comfortable taking a company pension necessarily. And the conditions, the matching is usually very low for startups, because it's not why you go work in a startup, right? It's not the company pension, because how long are you gonna usually work in a startup? Probably not the next 4 years, right? So
Okay, let me take that chance to wrap up the episode. So we spoke about the 5 questions that every client asks us, and I hope you guys liked it. It's definitely something to revisit. There were a lot of things in there. Let us know your questions if you have any. If they're the same, you got kind of a glimpse of how we address them. If you have different ones, let us know. And yeah, until next week with a different topic. See you guys. Bye bye.